Before we get into the video, I just want to make a quick disclaimer that most of the parts in this video are actually a part of my failed part prints bundle on my website. This little box gets you an assortment of 3D printed parts that are classified as failed prints on my end. As many of you know, I'm very anal when it comes to my detail, meaning not all of my 3D prints live up to my standard. And instead of wasting resin by throwing them away, I decided to sell them on my website. These pieces are great for practicing, especially if you're new to painting. I know at times it can be intimidating painting super fine detailed stuff for people trying to get into the hobby. And the last thing you want to do is ruin the parts that you just purchased. With the failed print bundle, you don't really have to worry about that, as these are already classified as ruined parts. This little bundle gives you a variety of different parts that can actually teach you how to paint and practice. Now, the pro of buying the failed print bundle is every other month I host a mini giveaway. The only thing you have to do to enter is just to purchase one of these boxes. I do this in hopes to push more people to join the community. That's enough ranting though about the failed print box. I also added a ton of other stuff onto my website, so definitely feel free to check it all out. I updated all of my joints to the system that you will see in this video. I also completely redid my Noble team and finally released ODSTs, including Alpha 9. These kits are packed with detail and are now officially 100% 3D printed, along with including magnets, meaning you don't have to go and scavenge and disassemble any of your old Mega Construx figures to enjoy any of my new parts. It has taken me nearly 7 years to finally perfect these figures, and I couldn't have done it without y'all. One last thing before we start the video: once I hit 300 Patreon Plus members, I'll start selling and giving out files on my Patreon. I'll talk more about this sometime in the future, but until then, thank y'all so much. For this section, we'll be installing the Halo Reach sniper rifle. As you can see, the barrel has great flexibility. To start off, go ahead and heat up your entire sniper rifle. The same exact steps that we use with this sniper rifle can be applied to any of my sniper rifles. Now that the sniper rifle is nice and warm, go ahead and insert your bipod. Just take it slow and use the back of your finger. Now for the magazine, all you're going to do is insert it inside of the magazine well. I recommend taking out the magazine and inserting it a handful of times just to make sure it has a good solid fit. But now your sniper rifle is basically assembled. I have to say, I absolutely love the working bipod and removable mag. This next tip is actually pretty helpful if you want to create a battle damage sniper rifle or any type of weathered or bent weapon. Once the resin is heated up, you can just hold the position there for a couple of seconds and you'll feel the resin cool down, and it will actually hold this position. If you no longer want this position, or on the rare chance your weapons or a part gets warped during shipping, easily use a heat gun to return it back to its original state. You have a lot of freedom with this. Just make sure you don't use the heat gun too much on these super small parts. Just make sure that it's fully cooled down before you start messing with it too much. My energy swords. As many of you know, they come in two different parts. You got the hilt, then you got the blade. The easiest way is to do this, and it allows you, the customizer, to have full control over basically the style of energy sword you want. As the energy swords throughout Halo has a lot of different spacings in between the blades, from the comics to the games. To build the energy sword, it's actually fairly simple. Go ahead and grab your hilt. It looks like this. You're going to see two different sections. You're going to have the one with the 4 screws like this, and the side without the 4 screws, almost like a little triangle. The side with the 4 screws is the back side of the hilt. Okay, keep that in mind. You're going to use a heat gun for about 5 to 10 seconds. Align it with your sword, and you're just going to add firm pressure and press in. You can see it's crossed, right? And that's good. Kind of want that. Now what you can do is you can go in and you just pull each side back, like so, and there you go. You have built yourself an energy sword. The cool thing with this system is you, the user, has full control over the style you want. Some people might want their energy swords to look more like Halo Wars. Halo Wars was known to have very spaced out energy blades, so you can very easily do that. Maybe you want something on the lines of Halo Reach, where it looks more aggressive, but it has the Halo 3 and Halo War style of energy sword. Super easy. just tilt it forward a little bit. And the same thing goes with my Halo Reach energy sword. Now, if you see any bit of like fuzzy bits or support marks, actually extremely easy to clean up. What I'm gonna do is gonna grab a razor blade, and you can very lightly just scour the edges. But if you really want to get creative with it, you can even use the razor blade and you can actually go inside of the 3D print and add some cool cuts, kind of like from certain energy swords from the comics. This is for the Halo 3 turret. It's actually fairly simple. All you're going to be doing is using a heat gun on where the barrel connects. Only need to do it for a couple of seconds, nothing too crazy. Now all you have to do is just grab your barrel and insert it slowly in a twisting motion. You will get some resin dusting from this. It isn't much of an issue. Just grab a brush and some isopropyl alcohol and clean it off, and then re-warm up the turret and insert it again. You may need to do this a couple of times depending on your liking. Once you moved it back and forth quite a bit and you found your smooth spot, you're basically done. You just got to clean it off one last time, paint it up, and you're good to go. If you want to take this a step further, this is good for my stop motion fan, so you can actually trim down my peg. All you really need to do is measure the magnets and take away from the peg, glue it onto the barrel, and then glue it on inside of the turret. The most important part from doing this though is when gluing the magnet in, you must try your best to center it towards the barrel and inside of the turret, otherwise it might rotate on a weird axis. This is for my jetpack and any of my backpacks on my website. My micro action figures actually have discrete magnetic slots, allowing you to holster and change out gear accurately, like in the games. Go ahead and start heating up your jetpack and slowly insert the jetpack fins in a rotating motion. Take this part super slow so you don't accidentally break something. Once you insert it, go ahead and remove it and clean it off. Now go ahead and re-warm up your jetpack. Once that is finished, go ahead and reinsert your jetpack fin. I recommend using a twisting, clockwise and counterclockwise motion. What we are doing right now is we're allowing the resin to cool and create a perfect mold around the jetpack fin. Once you finish that, go ahead and clean it off with a brush and isopropyl alcohol. I recommend 70% and 99% for cleaning off the resin dusting. But as you can see, the thruster and or fin can rotate on its axis and works great. All you have to do is just copy the same process onto the other side. And as you can see here, it fits perfectly onto the Mark V Spartans and your ODSTs. Basically everything you see in this figure right now, I'm going to show you how to properly install and assemble. For this section, we'll be building the entire lower half of these figures. Warm up your boot with a heat gun for a couple of seconds and install it into the leg. Once installed, use a rotating motion and take off the boot and clean off any resin dusting with 99% or 70% isopropyl alcohol. Do the same thing for your leg ball joint also. Now proceed to install your boot into your leg and use a rotating motion. You can basically do this process over and over again until you are happy with the amount of tension in the boot. Now just follow the same steps for the left leg. Now warm up your thigh undersuit and carefully install it into your lower leg peg. Once installed, rotate the thigh undersuit back and forth. What we're doing is forcefully creating dusting. This will later help reduce paint rub and also create a perfect mold. I recommend you don't separate the thigh undersuit with the leg, unless you are painting it. This is a really tight joint. I designed it that way. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the ball joint. Now proceed to grab your T-joint and insert it into the thigh ball joint socket. Rotate the T-joint back and forth. The resin is still warm right now, and again, we're just trying to let the thigh undersuit create a perfect mold around the ball joint. Once you've done this a couple of times, go ahead and remove the T-joint and the thigh undersuit and clean off any of the resin dusting. Once the parts are cleaned off, go ahead and assemble the two parts together. As you can see, it should have really good motion and have satisfying pops for you. And as you can see here, joints are nice and firm. Now we'll begin installing the thigh armor, along with finalizing the rest of the lower half of the legs. The question I'll get is, does it matter the order that you do this in? And the answer is yes. I recommend you do the leg, the thigh, you do the ball joint. The reason why is once we put the T-joint onto here and we mold this specific joint, exactly the T-joint, as shown here, if we add heat trying to warm up this bottom section down here, this section is going to want to retain back to its original shape. Doing so no longer really fit the ball joint. We took away material, and that material we can't get back. This is going to be loose just because I didn't glue it. I recommend once you put the magnet in, as you can see I have some spacing up there for the magnet, you just push it in like that. Doing that closes up the magnet and gives you a really good seal. But I recommend doing this after the figure is painted. That should be one of your last steps, is connecting this thigh undersuit to the thigh armor. I'm going to show you guys how to prep your weapons for these figures. Super simple, doesn't take much time. Grab the hands that come within the kits, or if you purchase this individually on my website. First thing I want you to do, remove the sprues. You can either use a razor blade or flush cut pliers. And it's relatively simple. Just go ahead and bend up. It should separate. You're going to have that section right here and this section right here. Your goal is you want to get right on the edge of this peg, and you just want to get rid of the sprue. Here, go ahead and try sanding this down. You can either use sandpaper or, again, just the razor blade. Once you get it all cleaned up, go ahead and grab your wrists. We'll be using the left hand. How you will know it's the left hand, it will slightly angle down when the peg sits level with the horizon. As you can see on this side, it angles up. For the wrist, we're going to go ahead and warm up this section with the heat gun. Insert the hand inside of the wrist. Once inserted, rotate. Once to your liking, you can go ahead and remove it. I recommend doing this when the resin is still relatively warm. Don't wait 30 minutes or so, come back to this stage, clean off any bit of the resin and on the hand. And I recommend to not assemble these two back together unless they are fully painted, or if you're talented enough to paint around it while installed. So you have the wrist inserted like this, you can go ahead and clean off any bit of the dusting. Now you're ready for the next step. Go ahead and use your heat gun and insert it over the weapon handle. What this does is it allows the hand to be perfectly molded around the handle. Let the resin cool for a couple of seconds and then start rotating the gun around the hand. What this does is it helps create the perfect mold and severely reduces paint rub. As you can see, quite a bit of dusting. Go ahead and grab your brush, clean off on the inside of the hand. Do the same thing for the handle. Now insert hand into handle and rinse and repeat until you're happy. I recommend doing this before you paint, not after. Now you have a really solid hand that fits over your weapon almost perfectly every time. You can do this with really any one of my weapons on my website, and I highly recommend it. Now we're moving into the most recent addition on my website for these figures, and that is the ability for me to 3D print joints. The same concept we applied for the rest of the video will be applied to this. Go ahead and remove your peg joints from the sprues. Look at the flexibility on that. Proceed to warm up the elbow joint of the wrist. Once you insert the elbow joint into the wrist, go ahead and rotate the peg. This will help create that perfect mold. Try Try to push it in as far as you can so you don't have a gap like this. You may need to re-warm up the wrist. It's important to take it slow and to create that perfect mold, as you will see right here. Once you insert these pegs into the 3D printed parts, you will not be able to remove them. Doing so increases the risk extremely high to breaking these 3D printed parts. These are designed to be stuck into place. Once you have it inserted and it feels relatively good, go ahead and add pressure at the top of the peg against the wrist, as you can see right here. What we want to do, rub it against the wrist elbow and forcefully create dusting. This is important so you don't have paint rub later on. Once you're happy with it and you see very minimal, if not no paint rub, go ahead and clean off the 3D print. So if you are happy with how your hand feels already, it rotates very smoothly, if not a little bit firm, and that's okay. It's all about preference, right? If it rotates to your liking and it can fit the weapon to your liking, continue with the rest of the video. This section will consist of the shoulder portion. It's fairly simple, it's only 2 joints. We'll go ahead and heat up the side section right here. On smaller parts like this, if you do have alligator clips or something similar to that so you don't burn your hand, I recommend that, as a heat gun can get fairly hot. Go ahead and insert the joint. Once inserted, go ahead and rotate the joint alongside the shoulder. Once you have this finished, go ahead and do the other side. Get to this part of the video, you should have 2 pairs of wrists and 2 pairs of shoulders. At this point, you have 2 options. You can go ahead and paint everything and assemble it, or you can assemble it and then paint around it. Ultimately, the preference is up to you and your skill level. Using a heat gun will not affect the paint if you do it in small bursts of about 5 to 10 seconds and you're not directly on top of it. Again, all we're doing is we're just heating it up to soften up the resin. If you do not have a heat gun and you're trying to temp this with using a blow dryer or even hot water, I extremely advise you do this all ahead of time before you paint. I don't recommend you paint and throw it in hot water. You will ruin your paint job. If you do not own a heat gun, I highly recommend you get them. They're about $10 on Amazon, or you can get a really nice one like I have from Home Depot. That's like $25. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm gonna start assembling the shoulder and the wrist section together using the heat gun. Go ahead and press the joint inside of the shoulder. Once in, start rotating. Once you do this, do not take out the figure. It is designed to be locked in once the resin cools. If you're worried about the prints rubbing, I designed it in a way where it shouldn't interfere. But now that we completed this section, we're gonna go ahead and do the other side. As you can see, it goes on there very, very well. I'm not worried about it breaking or snapping off or any of that. This took years to perfect, and I'm very, very proud of myself, but we're not done yet. We still have one of the hardest parts in this entire video, and probably the most crucial. This right here is the torso. As many of you know, I went ahead and I redid the joint system for all of my torsos, male and female, from Spartan 4 all the way up to Spartan 2. First things I recommend doing when you do this is we're going to knock out the T-joint. Before we warm up the torso, I recommend you going ahead and grab your cod plate, slide it into here like so. I recommend at this stage to either paint this or you assemble it, then paint it. Go ahead and grab your toe and warm up this section for about 10 to 15 seconds. Once you have it inserted, lightly and carefully rotate the torso. What's happening is the resin is trying its best under extreme pressure to form around this joint. Take it nice and slow, you will have no issues. If you go fast and you're aggressive, you can break off the T-joint inside of the torso. If it feels like it's too tight, or if you feel like you're twisting the joint itself, stop. Let the resin cool down, heat it up, and remove it. Once you rotate it around a good bit, give it a couple passes, and if you try pulling it out a little bit, this should not be possible at all. The cod plate might be a little loose. Again, it's preference. You can either keep it loose like this, and it's not really a big deal. And if you want your stuff to look very solid and secure and more professional, yes, I recommend gluing it. The T-joint has this little lip right here that sets for the cod plate. If you use a little bit of glue, you can put it right here and you'll be good. Just make sure you don't get glue onto the ball joint. Alternatively, you could have glued the cod plate to the T-joint and then did what I did. Choice is ultimately up to you. That was one of the more difficult parts when it comes to this. You just have to take your time. You cannot rush it. Once you're finished, it should look something like this. Now that we have the T-joint installed, go ahead and warm up the shoulder sockets. Once you do that, go ahead and insert the shoulder joint inside of the peg. Once inserted, go ahead and rotate freely, slowly. The key is, again, we want the resin to form around the joint, creating that perfect mold. And as you'll see when doing this, you're gonna get very, very minimal dusting. Very minimal. And that's good. Again, once you put the arm into the torso, it is designed not to come out. Please keep that in mind when putting these figures together. Give it some up and down movement. I designed these joints to give it a little bit more movement than traditional micro action figures. I think it helps create a more dynamic pose, and it's fairly in line with like a butterfly joint. Once you're happy with it, go ahead and clean it up. Once you do this, you're basically almost finished up. And for those who didn't know, the T section on this peg means torso, like torso down. Some people confuse it with top, makes sense, but it's super important because as you can kind of see right here, one side is bigger than the other. Use the heat gun for about a couple of seconds, and it should just slide right in there. Bend it back and forth like so, and let the resin cool down. Look at that, very minimal dusting. Just keep doing this until you have almost no more dusting at all. I'm adding pretty firm pressure right now, but you kind of want to utilize that dust inside of there to give it that nice friction feel. And again, you have full customization when it comes to these figures. If you want the joints to be super, super loose, maybe for stop motion, or if you want to be super, super firm, right? The choice is yours. You genuinely have full control over this. As you can see, Mega's T-joint, when it comes to right here, you're gonna see this little ring. All you're gonna do, you're just gonna grab your razor blade and you're gonna remove that. Because fun fact, this ball right here is the same exact dimension all the way around. I'm not too sure why they have this. It could be from injection molding. It could be designed that way to keep the thighs into place. I'm not too sure. All I do know is when you try attaching my thighs to this T-joint, it doesn't work. Go ahead and use your razor blade, which I recommend, and just cut off the ring. As you can see, it does not have to be too crazy pretty. All you want to do is you want to get rid of that ring. Once you have that finish, you don't even have to warm up the 3D printed part. It will just clip right onto there and you are good to go. And since this is a completely different material than this, you don't have to worry about any type of dusting or any of that. So I still highly recommend, if you have the ability to use a Mega T-joint, go ahead. But if you're just a collector and you just want to have them on your shelf and you don't plan on posing them around or doing some crazy stop motions, go ahead and use my T-joints. We'll still have to do the exact same thing with warming up the torso here and inserting the T-joint. This was a pretty big improvement as no one has really done this. Same when it comes to the elbow joints. A lot of people seem to be struggling with that. If you don't like my elbow joints for some reason, or if you just really want to play it safe, you still can use Megas. Things I do warn you about: one, if you do buy a knockoff from someone else, like from China, eBay, or whatever, the dimensions will be off slightly. Same thing with Mega. There's always inconsistencies with injection molding. They're more durable, there's going to be more inconsistencies with injection molding. Nice thing about my joints is you don't have to worry about paint rubbing either, as these are designed specifically for these figures. Look at these types of figures right here that Mega produces. These are designed to actually rub against the shoulder, and that is what creates the friction, and not so much stress on the joint itself inside of there. So just keeping that in mind, you have complete control as the customizer here. Now we have most of the figure bases completed. For any type of shoulder pad that I have on my website, you're just going to go ahead and glue it onto the actual shoulder. As for my ODST shoulders, you're going to see there's a small little magnetic slot right here. So go ahead, very carefully line it up, throw it in there and push down. The plates, you have a small little magnetic slot also. A super easy and effective way to install the magnets. Just add a dab of glue like this, and then grab a single magnet, drop it on top, and you can use magnets to automatically just guide it in. And then you can just set it aside and wait. That's crazy. And you can kind of use the magnet to slide it into the magnetic slot while glue's in there. Once you're done, remove the magnets and just let it dry. Once it's dry, as you can see, the magnet is a little recessed. You can now just use this as a complete guide and throw it over the shoulder. And now you have a magnetic shoulder plate. Swap them out, you very easily can. As you can see, it just goes right into there. Just line it up and you're good to go. Now onto torsos and back plates. Some of my torsos will have little magnetic slots like this. Some of them won't. For example, I want to make this pre-existing jetpack that already has a magnet inside of here compatible with this. It's actually very, very easy. Go ahead and grab your magnets and just throw it into here. Now know that this side right here is going to be the top and that's going to be the bottom. Go ahead and grab your Sharpie, mark this side, take off the magnet like so, use glue. These torsos are only meant to hold one magnet each side and then one magnet on top of the back plate. Before the glue dries, just go ahead and try to remove that top one. Make sure one magnet doesn't protrude out farther than the other. Now before we start doing the back plate, we're going to make sure we do the same exact thing again so we don't accidentally mess up our magnets. I'm going to grab your Sharpie, mark the magnet. The difference this time though now is the marked area is going to be up top. Now moving on to the back plate, one of the easiest things probably to do, since this is a lot bigger magnet, you can grab your chest plate like this, align it over it, then have your magnets kind of fall into each slot. And then just do the same thing on the other side. Do not put this on the torso yet. You want to make sure the glue is fully dried, otherwise you're kind of screwed. Now, you don't care too much about taking off the chest plate ever again, or the back plate, you can go ahead and just put it on there. While the glue is wet, it'll stick there and it'll be good to go. And now, you have a jetpack, or any type of backpack or accessory that will attach and look really, really clean on an ODST figure. And or a Reach Mark V Spartan, as you can see right here. These magnets are bigger, stronger, and shouldn't go anywhere. Now, if it comes to thighs or weapons, it's fairly simple. My Mark V thighs and my ODST thighs actually have discrete magnetic slots built into it. All you really have to do is make sure you know what kind of orientation you want for your magnets, throw it in there, let it dry. Now that we got the thigh there, we're going to go ahead and grab a weapon. This example right here, I'll be using the Halo Reach SOCOM Magnum. It's not in the game, kind of similar to the Halo 3 ODST Magnum. And we're going to put the magnet facing that way. Grab your razor blade, put just a little bit of glue, nothing too crazy, to put that magnet facing that side using the razor blade. And then I'm going to use my finger like this to push it in. Once you have everything installed, do a little test run to make sure everything fits. The same concept can work for any of the weapons I have that have the magnetic slot. You can go ahead, boom, attach it, and you're good to go. Just throw it on the back like this. If you really want to get crazy with it, you can have the jetpack like this. Roll the magnet back here if you really want to. And that's basically it. Hopefully this video helped. This video is definitely on the longer side, but it covers everything you really need to know when assembling these figures. It can seem super intimidating, but I promise you, once you build one or two of these figures, you'll be able to build an entire figure within 10 minutes, and then it'll be ready for painting. Big thanks for everyone who has been patient. For those who were not on Instagram, I had a lot of medical problems pop up in my personal life, along with just personal events happening. This delayed up to 150 orders and put me behind about 2 months on a handful of them, which is way past my normal 2-week window of operation. I do have a doctor's appointment on the 10th, and this will either let me know if I have melanoma or not. Both of my doctors believe I do. Extraction on my hand seems to be healing up pretty good, and hopefully soon we'll find out what's going on with my back. I definitely definitely do apologize. It seems that every time I release something fun or exciting, a major life event happens. Last year my sister died when I did a big content drop, and around Christmas of that year I had a lot of orders delayed due to me moving. And unfortunately this time, as soon as I dropped the ODSTs, I continued to grow signs of skin cancer. I do apologize again. A lot of this stuff is out of my control, and I hate how I handled this drop. Part of me shut down and got overwhelmed. But we're still kicking it, and I'll do my best of continuing to make content. Thank y'all so much again, and if y'all have any questions, please leave it down in the comments and I'll do my best to respond to everyone.